In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Excel to do matrices calculations. We have a matrix of a 3 by 4, 3 rows by 4 columns, adding to a 3 by 4 matrix. So basically what I did is I took the values and I placed them into their own cells. In Excel, it's actually known as an array. I've already got the solution here, but I'm going to show you how I did it. I have to highlight the number of cells that I need for the array. Since it's a 3 by 4 adding to a 3 by 4, then the result is going to be a 3 by 4 array or matrix. So you're going to start off with an equal sign. Make sure you have everything highlighted. And then you're going to just highlight the arrays. This one plus this array. Now, if I hit enter right now, look what it does. It gives me a value because it knows it can't put all those values into one cell. So when you're doing matrices calculations or an array calculations, then you're going to have to use this up here. Control Shift Enter. This is extremely, extremely important to make your solutions work. So I'm going to highlight my cells and go equal sign, highlight the cells, plus, highlight the cells, and then go Control, Shift, and then Enter. And there's your solution. In the next one, I'm going to subtract. It's the same way. You have to highlight the value, the number of cells you need. I'm doing a 3 by 4 minus a 3 by 4. So I'm going to go equal sign, and I'm going to just select the array. And notice how it puts H4 to basically the colon and then K6. And then I'm going to subtract the second array. All right, and then I'm going to go Control Shift Enter. When you're doing these, make sure you understand what you're adding and subtracting in what order. I'm sorry, that should have been A minus B. A minus B or B minus A. Okay, so make sure you put them in their proper order. The next one, C, is going to be the scalar component. Now, when you do scalars, it's basically an equation. You still have to highlight the number of cells, and when you're multiplying a scalar by a matrices, it's going to be the same size matrix. So I'm going to say equal sign, and I'm going to pick the cell that has the scalar value in it, and I'm going to hit the Shift 8 to get my multiplication symbol, and then I'm going to highlight the cells that I need. And I still have to go Control Shift Enter. Okay, so it's as easy as that. Now, when you're doing multiplication in example D, I'm going to show you two ways. Matrices A is a 2 by 3, and matrices B is a 3 by 2. So I got a 2 by 3 multiplied by a 3 by 2. So notice the 3's, the interior numbers are the same. The exterior numbers and the interior numbers have to be. So the 3 and the 3 here, that tells me I can actually multiply these matrices. Now, it's going to give me a result of a 2 by 2. So if I'm multiplying A times B, I'm going to get a result of a 2 by 2. Now, if I was multiplying B times A, so it's a 3 by 2 multiplied by a 2 by 3, the 2's, I can multiply it because there are the 2's together, but the resulting would be a 3 by 3 matrix. So I know I'm going to need a 2 by 2 if I'm multiplying A times B. I'm going to go ahead and highlight a 3 by 3 though and watch what happens. So the command is equal sign, MMULT, parentheses, I'm going to highlight the A matrix first, comma, and I'm going to highlight the B matrices second, close the parentheses, and you have to close them, and then go Control Shift and Enter. Notice what it does. The computer knows that it's only going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. So it goes ahead and just gives me a non-applicable information all around it. So I can go ahead and just delete those out. But I can't because I've already assigned it as part of the matrix. So I'm just going to undo that. So Control Z. And I'm going to only highlight the matrices area, a 2 by 2. So I'm going to go equal sign, MMULT, so that's multiplication of matrices. The first array, comma, and the second array, close parentheses. And then Control, Shift, and Enter. Now, the next one, I'm going to do the B times A. What if I only highlighted a 2 by 2? I know that I need a 3 by 3, but what if I only highlighted a 2 by 2? So I'm going to say equal sign, MMULT, parentheses, highlight B comma, A, close parentheses, and then Control Shift Enter. It gives me the solution. That's true, but the problem is I know that that's wrong because I should have had a 3 by 3. The computer isn't going to tell you when you've done it the wrong way, the opposite, as in you didn't give me enough cells. So I'm going to highlight all the cells because I know it's supposed to be a 3 by 3, and I'm going to say equals MMULT, parentheses, highlight the B, comma, and then highlight the A matrices. Close parentheses, Control, Shift, and Enter. So it gave me the 4 same values for the 2 by 2, but always remember when you're doing multiplication, look at the columns and make sure they have the column of the first one and the row of the second value that you're multiplying is the same value. And the resulting one is going to be the row and the column of the first and the second value. All right? Now, the next example is a multiple part one. First, it asked me to find the inverse and then multiply it by itself. So what I've done, and I'll do it step by step, the first thing I did is I did the transposing of the A matrix, okay? Because I have to have the transposition of A and then times itself. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more room. I'm going to squish this over. I'm going to bring this over. And I'm going to transpose the values over here. So I know it's a 4 by 4, so I highlight the 4 by 4 and I go equal size and I type in transpose, parentheses, and highlight the cells that I want to transpose. And then I go enter. Oops, I should have hit Control Shift Enter, remember. Equals transpose, parentheses, highlight the cells, Control Shift Enter. All right, so notice that now the row of the column becomes the row. Okay, so that's the first step. Now it's asking me to multiply this value times the original value. So I'm going to highlight the area, and it's a multiplication. It's going to be a 4 by 4. So I'm going to say equals MMULT, and notice that it asked me to multiply the transposed first, comma, the original matrix. Close parentheses, Control Shift and Enter. Okay. Now the last thing that it asked me to do, part B, asked me to do the inverse of this, basically, of this value that I just solved for. So when you're doing matrices, you have to do them step by step. You can't just do it all at once. So you have to find the solution to the first one. So now I'm going to highlight the 4 by 4 because when you transpose or you do an inverse of a value, it's going to be the same rows and columns that you have. So I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to type in M inverse equals, and I'm going to pick the array. This is my array that I need to inverse. Close the parentheses and go Control Shift and Enter. Okay. Now, I wanted to go ahead and show you the solution to show you that I'm getting the same values of how that I'm getting these. So the blue was already the solutions that I was providing, and I was just showing over here in the steps. Now, here's the thing, why the matrices is so important is you can use it to solve a set of equations instead of doing equations simultaneously or by substitution. You can do it automatic by using matrices. Now, the first thing you have to understand is how to set up the equations. So over here, I've got a homework problem that says, all right, set up the matrices in the form of A, X, and B. So A is going to be all your constants. X is going to be all your X values, X1, X2, X3, X4, and your B values are going to be your constants, or the constants on the opposite side of the equal sign. So I should have said the variables. A is all the variables multiplied by your X1, X2, X3. So this problem says represent the following in a linear equation. So what it's meaning for you to do is here is the matrices A. So all I've done is put all the values. There's a 2, there's an understood 1 in front of x2, there's 5, and there's an understood 1 in front of x4. And you do the same for the next row. There's an understood 1 in front of the x1, an understood 1 in front of the x2. There is a -3. So when you're doing this, there's always, imagine there's a plus sign, and it's actually, in this one, it would actually be a plus and then a -3 value, okay, to the x3. Okay, so that's why I've got negatives here. And the same with this one. You're always thinking of it as an understood plus value and a parenthesis around the negative value. Okay, just remember that because it's super important when you start putting these into rows and columns. So the X component matrices is a 4 rows by 1 column, so x1, x2, x3, x4, and then the constants is going to be my B's, so 5, -1, 8, and 2. All right. The reason we're doing this way is I'm going to show you in the next example how to do calculations, how to solve for the X. In this one, I'm going to show you the X, Y, and Z. Now, I should have called this L up here. Most nomenclatures call it L for whatever reason. So to solve for the unknowns X, Y, and Z, the first thing I have to do is multiply both sides by the inverse of the matrix A. So my matrices A is just my variables in front of the X, Y, Z. 13, -6, and there's no Z value, so it's 0. -1 is for the X, 3 is for the Y, and -1 is for the Z. There's no X value, so it's 0, a -3 value for the Y, and an 8 value for the Z. Now, my L components are going to be my constants. 640.02, 302.12, 336.11 for the last one. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the inverse of A. So all I did is typed in M inverse and highlighted these cells, okay, and then hit Control, Shift, and Enter. Okay, so it's the inverse of that. Now, the next thing that I did is I did the multiplication of the inverse. Remember, it has to be the inverse first, multiplied by the L matrix. So I said MULT, parentheses, highlighted the inverted matrix, comma, highlighted the L matrices, close parentheses, and then hit Control, Shift, and Enter, and solved it. Now, I always go back and I check my solutions. And to do that, all I did was said this value, the 13 times the X value that it's supposed to be, plus the Y value, the Y variable times the Y value, plus the Z variable times the Z value. And I just set it up. And then here's the nice thing. I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Once I've got these equations set up, then it's always going to be these two multiplied together plus. That's why it's always a plus, because the values here, when it's negative, it already goes ahead and takes that into the equation. So I just have to highlight it. Oops. Here's the thing, is these, since I'm always referencing this, these cells here and not changing them, they should have a $sign in front of them. So if I click on this cell and hit F4 on my keyboard, it's going to put $signs in front of them. That means I'm always wanting these values to be constant. Highlight that, hit F4, highlight that, hit F4. Now when I copy this down, it references the proper cells. So when I do this check solution, notice that it should be exactly as the L matrix. Now there's programs out there that can do this. There's the Matrix program that we have that Purdue put out, and we also have your calculators that can do this. But this is just a really nice way to do large-scale calculations with a lot of unknowns in a simplistic format using the matrix equation. All right? If you have any questions, just send me a message and let me know. That's it for this video.